Morality is not the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. These words by Immanuel Kant echo through the centuries, challenging our understanding of ethics and morality. Imagine a moral compass so powerful it could guide all your decisions. Welcome to the fascinating universe of Kant's moral philosophy, a journey that promises to transform your view of right and wrong. Think about this scenario. You're late for your dream job interview, and you see a pedestrian waiting to cross the street. What do? Your answer reveals more about your ethics than you might think. Kant, born in 1724 in Prussia, wasn't just another philosopher. He revolutionized ethical thinking, and his ideas continue to shape the modern world in surprising ways. At the heart of his moral philosophy is the concept of the categorical imperative. Picture a universal golden rule, applicable to all moral situations regardless of consequences. Sounds simple, right? But the implications are profound and often challenging. Kant argued that we should only act according to rules we could wish to become universal laws. If everyone lied whenever it was convenient, trust in society would crumble. That's why Kant considered lying always wrong, no matter the circumstance. Shocking, isn't it? But before we dismiss this idea, let's explore it further. Think about the implications of a world where lying was acceptable in certain circumstances. Who would decide which situations justify lying? How could we trust each other if we knew everyone was willing to lie if they thought it necessary? Kant also introduced the concept of inalienable human dignity. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end, he wrote. This means each person has intrinsic value and shouldn't be used merely as a tool for our objectives. But how do we apply these ideas in everyday life? Imagine getting too much change by mistake. Kant's approach would tell us to return the extra money, not out of fear of punishment, but because it's the right thing to do. At work, when considering advancing your career at a colleague's expense, you'd remember to treat them as an end in themselves, not just an obstacle to overcome. This completely changes our perspective on competition and success, doesn't it? Of course, Kant's philosophy faces criticism. Some consider it too rigid, ignoring the nuances of specific situations. For example, what if lying was necessary to save a life? Kant would still consider it wrong. This moral rigidity makes us question, is there room for ethical flexibility in a complex world? Other philosophers like John Stuart Mill proposed different approaches, focusing on the consequences of actions. Mill's utilitarianism suggests that what's morally right is what produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. How do you think this approach compares to Kant's? Even with these criticisms, Kant's ideas remain fundamental in modern ethical debates, influencing discussions on human rights, medical ethics, and social justice. Think about how Kant's idea of human dignity influences debates on topics like the death penalty, torture, or medical experimentation. And in the digital age, how do we apply the categorical imperative to online privacy or artificial intelligence? If everyone shared personal information without consent, what would happen to our society? And how do we ensure AI systems treat humans as ends in themselves, not just data to be processed? Kant also emphasized moral autonomy. For him, true freedom comes from acting according to rational principles we choose, not blindly following desires or social expectations. This has profound implications for education and personal development. How can we create a society that promotes this kind of ethical autonomy? The philosopher argued that we should act from duty, not just in conformity with it. It's not enough to do the right thing. We must do it for the right reason. This invites us to constantly examine our motivations and the integrity of our actions. Think of a time when you helped someone. Did you do it because it was the right thing to do or expecting recognition? Kant challenges us to act morally, even when no one is watching. How can we cultivate this kind of moral integrity in ourselves and our society? His ideas also extend to our relationship with the environment. If we applied the categorical imperative to nature, could we justify the reckless exploitation of resources, or would we be obliged to adopt an ethic of sustainability and respect for the natural world? Interestingly, Kant didn't see the pursuit of happiness as the ultimate goal of moral life. Instead, he argued that we should seek to be worthy of happiness through moral actions. This raises profound questions about the purpose of life and the meaning of personal fulfillment. How do we balance our pursuit of happiness with our moral duty? In the field of justice, Kant advocated for a system based on retribution. But how does this align with modern ideas of rehabilitation and restorative justice? If each person has intrinsic dignity, how does this affect the way we treat criminals or those who have violated moral norms? The philosopher also argued that true morality comes from reason, not emotions. However, modern neuroscience discoveries highlight the role of emotions in moral judgment. How do we balance reason and emotion in ethical decisions? Think of a situation where you had to make a difficult moral decision. How easy was it to separate reason from emotion? Kant proposed the idea of transcendental freedom to resolve the dilemma between determinism and moral responsibility. But the debate about free will continues to this day. If our actions are determined by natural laws, how can we be truly responsible for them? For the philosopher, the moral value of an action depends on the intention, not the consequences. This changes our perspective on forgiveness and responsibility. How do we judge someone who tried to do the right thing but unintentionally caused harm? This view invites us to greater empathy and understanding in our daily interactions. Kant saw rights and duties as two sides of the same coin. If we have a duty to respect others' dignity, it implies that everyone has the right to respect. How can this perspective inform modern debates on human rights? And how do we balance individual rights and collective responsibilities in a complex, interconnected society? The philosopher believed that moral reasoning can and should be cultivated through education. What kind of teaching would create a society of morally autonomous individuals, capable of applying ethical principles in complex situations? Think about how the education you received shaped your sense of morality. What changes would you make to the educational system to promote more robust ethical development? Kant defended the existence of objective moral truths discovered through reason. How do we reconcile this with the moral pluralism observed in different cultures? This tension between moral universalism and relativism continues to be one of the great debates in ethical philosophy. Optimistically, the philosopher believed in humanity's moral progress. Looking at history, do we see evidence of this? What ethical challenges does the future hold with advances in artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and space exploration? How can Kantian ethics guide us in these new moral frontiers? Kant argued that politics should be subordinate to morality. How do we apply this to modern political realities? How do we create systems that reflect universal ethical principles? This ideal may seem utopian, but it challenges us to elevate the level of political discourse and practice. While emphasizing individual autonomy, Kant recognized the importance of a moral community. How do we create societies that encourage individual and collective ethical growth? How do we balance community demands with respect for individual autonomy? Kantian philosophy also has interesting implications for how we think about friendship and love. If we should treat all people as ends in themselves, how does this affect our closest personal relationships? Kant argued that true friendship involves mutual respect and support for each other's moral growth. Another fascinating aspect is Kant's view on the importance of reflection and moral self-examination. He believed we should constantly question our own motivations and actions to ensure we're acting according to universal moral principles. How can we incorporate this practice of moral self-examination into our daily lives? Kant's philosophy challenges us at every turn. It invites us to examine our actions, motivations, and the impact we have on the world. It doesn't offer easy answers, but equips us with tools to navigate the complex moral dilemmas we face. At the end of this journey through Kant's thought, how about a challenge? Try applying the categorical imperative to a decision you need to make. Ask yourself, what if everyone did this? What kind of world would that create? The answer might surprise you and, who knows, change your perspective forever. Kant's moral philosophy isn't just an academic exercise. It's a call to action, an invitation to live more ethically and reflectively. It reminds us that every choice we make has the power to shape not just our lives, but the world around us. If this video expanded your horizons or sparked your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fascinating explorations of the world of philosophy and ethics. Together, we can build a deeper understanding of what it means to live a moral and meaningful life. Until next time,